Aurora di bianco vestita, già l'uscio dischiude al gran sole, di già con le rose sue dita, carezza dei fiori lo stuole, commosso da un fremito arcano, intorno al creato già par, e tu non ti desti e di nevano, visto qui dolente a cantar. Metti anche tu la veste bianca e schiudi l'uscio al tuo canatore.
Be unafraid, beloved ones, to hold in your consciousness the mind of a little child. This does not mean that you are to actually fancy yourself as a little child, but it means to hold a childlike trust in your Creator. It means to drink in the sunlight of cosmic joy as the flowers do. It means to hold purity of thought as to be desired more than the things of the world and the thoughts of the carnal mind. It means to fashion the inner structuring according to the basic simplicity of the universe. When the love ray is epitomized at a given moment, it is to complement all of the flames of God. For when the love ray rays forth unto humanity, it contains within itself a facet of power and a facet of holy wisdom in that perfect triune balance that is the glory of God in the face of the child of trust. We exalt simplicity of ideas, for it opens the gateway to flow to the consciousness that ideas may come forth in a procession of thoughts, of virtue. One by one, the loveliness of the child concepts appear. And please remember that the child matures, that the child attains. It is not the height of a child in a physical sense that we point out is the pathway of virtue. It is the mind of the child in the basic simplicity of belief that can accept as potential the charge of light held in the hand of God. His radiance is a fire, as a river of fire, a river of hope as it is accepted. And when the flow of that river becomes the natural source of one's life, of one's thoughts, of one's aspirations, then this childlike attitude is one of acceptance. And by acceptance, man matures spiritually to become a master of life and of circumstances. For what are circumstances but conditions to be molded, conditions to be overcome, challenges to the God flame within you? Will you then take dominion over those conditions that challenge and refute the integrity of your being? Or will you allow them to take dominion over you? One should understand what is meant, not always in the basic simplicity in which it is said. It should be comprehended as a step upward to higher dimensions. And men and women should extol the childlike trust because it is a correct attitude. When the human intellect challenges the existence of God, God does not challenge the existence of the human intellect in return. His attitude is serene and poised. His attitude is, surely my little one will come to me and be as I am. And when one understands that, when one sees the attitude of God toward the prodigal consciousness, toward the consciousness of darkness, of doubt, of distress, one realizes that the open arms of God await the coming of the prodigal child until that one becomes truly a man of God, God-like, victorious, and free. I think often of flowers, and perhaps my mind is sometimes imbued with the consciousness of the immortal, of the eternal flower that cannot fade. For I see little virtues as flowers of thought that garland the altar of man's being, of his heart, of his entire world. And there upon the altar of being, I feel the permeation of the spirit of virtue embodied in the flowers as a new creation, a new potential to each life upon this earth and upon all inhabited systems. For cosmic intent is always complete. And whereas humanity feels so incomplete, if the intent of God become realized by man, he will certainly know many things he does not presently cognize. He will understand many things he does not now know exist. And he will see in this beautiful drama of enfoldment the enactment of cosmic victory as the fruit of a life radiant with the fires of devotion, the strength of holy wisdom, and the power of a God-victorious life. So many are concerned with trivial things. So many are enamored by the glamorous things of the world. And when these fade away, and they have no spiritual treasures that are immortal, that do endure forever, they find themselves in a real dilemma. Problems arise then of having builded upon the altar of God substances of wood, of hay, of stubble, as St. Paul said long ago, that must be tried by the fires of God and consumed. And when the fruit of a life is so tiny, so finite, that it can scarcely be seen, then men have salvaged very little from the fruit of their lives. I come this day with a concept of the salvation of every cosmic principle by every cosmic being, and I include those in physical form who are really cosmic beings because they have chosen so to be. Have you thought upon that, beloved ones? Or do you think of yourself as a creature of flesh and blood? Someone who came flitting across the stage of life and then vanishes, never to appear any more. God has a purpose for your life, a purpose for your mind, a purpose for the power resident within you, and a purpose for the shining of his strength in your mind. Will you extol that purpose by living that life in thought that will one day become the fruit of action, that will transform the world literally into a garden of paradise? Why? Because all of the majestic potential of universal thought has already decreed it so. Let the mirage of those who would attack light remain. It shall not endure. It shall not stand eternally against the light. For it is but a straw man, a figment of human imaginations misused. And the real drama of life is before you all. I remember many years ago when a little girl who did not even know of the existence of the Masters of Wisdom prayed to God and said, O Father, if thou hast any servant upon this earth or anywhere in the universe that will love me and help me, thou dost not need to come thyself, but send them, and I will receive them as thyself. And when she prayed thusly, I was sent. And I appeared to her at first only as in a dream. She saw me surrounded with roses, and having a parochial background, she fancied that I was Mother Mary. And so, in one of her dreams, Mother Mary came also with me. And then she was confused and said, Oh, you have a sister. Do you understand the sweetness and simplicity of the child mind? And so, eventually she found two spiritual friends who guided her destiny and assisted her through the entire school system. Upon her graduation, she became an artist of most ethereal pictures and followed the course of art all the days of her life. I want you to understand that within that artist there were many beautiful pictures unborn, paintings that never graced the canvases of the world. And if these could have been seen by humanity, they would, I tell you, have paid all that they have just to prize one of them. And so you see, there are many unborn ideas in individuals that simply because of the factor of time and circumstances do not become a reality now. One day, in far-off times, those individuals, as they reap their spiritual fruit, will find time to make those great expressions of God that they fell short of in one specific earth life. Do not lament any condition, beloved one. For all conditions, when appropriately understood in the light of divine grace, can become an assistance not only to yourselves, but to the whole world, as the regeneration of cosmic ideas is precipitated because men evoke it. Hungry hearts, the world over, questing hearts, are often asking, just what is the mystery of the universe? Oh, they understand certain basic facts in part, but many facts are hidden from their eyes, from their hearts. They do not thoroughly understand or realize the great cosmic grace that exists all around them. And so when I come to you this day, it is to create in you the certain knowledge that the grace of God has many plans for each one that are not necessarily now perceived by his eye. In childlike trust, then, will you believe in him and the divine plan? Will you believe in that eternal love and grace as never before, with an internal passion greater than ever before, and resolve that your acts and your deeds will become summoning ones to evoke from God's own hand greater grace in greater measure, that you may give it unto others as an expression of the love of infinity. When this becomes a blazing reality within the focus of your consciousness, it will infuse you with those immortal blooms from higher spheres that will cause you to feel less concern over your shortcomings and greater concern for the intention of God. And when his intentions become a part of yourself as never before, because your thoughts and your actions, your stimulations are truly creations of infinity, then you will perceive at last that your life is a thing of great worth, a soul expression of internal deification. You will throw the flowers literally around your own neck, as Ramakrishna said, and understand that God lives in you and cares for you and reveals to you and tutors you and blesses you, healing all of your turnings away from himself through the expression of infinite wisdom. But wisdom is not alone. Wisdom is also surrounded with the givingness of God. So many have misused the word love that sometimes I synonymously speak and say the givingness of God. For this is his love, the love of concern that often overlooks the failures of man and provides new opportunities, an intensification of the path you tread heavenward, because God has walked that way before, not only through the feet and hands of the masters, but also many unknown ones who have also measured the footprints of the masters in their consciousness. These will walk also on before, and myriad ones are they. The masters, yes, but humanity have victoriously walked in the master's footprints without ever becoming known as a master. These are also with us and are with you. These also want to help you and all humanity in your God realization, in your search for the miraculous faith that brings the miraculous works to earth, that will create a concept of inner renewal, inner strength, and inner radiance. Let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works, and transmute all evil by his grace. So shall the world become a more radiant place. So shall the hearts of little children, finding out now for the first time, as did Lord Buddha, that the world is a place of death and destruction and unreality, will also come to know that the world can be the gateway to immortal loveliness. My peace I give to you. My strength I pour upon you. My anointing is upon your head. Peace be unto you. At the portal of the year, on this January the 10th, 1971, I speak unto your hearts, urging upon you the realization that the light of God does not fail. You who have heard this statement before should reinforce the mighty pinions of light within yourself that are attached to the statement itself, that you may comprehend it. For it is in the doing of the word that man is able at last to fortify himself in those activities of light, whereby at last his victory will be won. I have often summoned, I have often evoked, I have often called forth. But the passion of responsibility passes to every man his own torch, the torch of his own response to his native God-self, and the realization that one day he will win his victory, because at last he has overcome within himself those facets of darkness that have long hindered him upon the pathway leading to eternal illumination. Illumination, even though it be inscribed by the finger of God, does not assure humanity any realization or any function of dominion until at last they are overcomers of that darkness in themselves. And when we say become overcomers of darkness, it is not an admonishment that cannot be realized, for the light of God never fails. When you understand this, with your heart and with your application, beloved ones, then at that moment there is a more than ordinary resolve strengthening itself within you, which becomes a fashion of righteousness for your brothers and those who walk in darkness. Do you understand how the star of illumination itself is communicated and is strengthened in its glow in the world order as humanity begin to walk this pathway? Why, when one individual embarks upon a new career in the God adventure, it is also a perfect example to many. By a like token, when individuals allow the standard of their own divine illumination to fall and to accept for themselves a lesser measure of divine activity, it becomes a series of bad examples which humanity are often misguided by. Do you realize then the full passion of example in the world order? Do you realize the full potential of yourself? Do you realize the activity of the sacred fire in its outreach to bring millions of humanity into the fold of illumination? Do you realize that you are a representative of the Most High God? So many are always creating figurines in their consciousness of varying sizes, which they can point to and say as an example, this person and that person, by their activity of light, overcame the darkness. Will you understand then that we are not engaged in the business of creating figurines or imaginary functions? We are in the business of manifesting the great cosmic tide of reality that is the cosmic example upon the screen of the immortal Akashic records, which are a part of the universal domain. Do you understand then that we will roll away the dark clouds of human misapprehensions, misunderstandings, and human greed and darkness? One day, when the full scope of our illumination has at last become a reality to every man, we are not satisfied to uphold the torch of illumination in the harbor of the whole world order and then perceive that the world will not even follow that example. We have a mandate, and that mandate is from on high, even over our heads, from the very heart of Alpha and Omega, beyond to the farthest reaches of the sublime Spirit of the Godhead. Do you understand then that with this mighty mandate that will one day sweep the world and inundate the forces of darkness in generations yet unborn, we must have a more than ordinary response from those of you who can accept in your hearts and find a lodging place for the Christ consciousness and those perfect examples of the vertical ascent. And how much greater value is this than to lie horizontal in the plane of matter, trapped as a spider in a web and waiting for karma to devour one? We want to point out then that rather than have you in this position, we would raise you upright until you understand what the fresh wind from the east is blowing about, what it is as the power of example and courage to humanity that will bring a new heaven and a new earth of righteousness into manifestation, because humanity have wanted it and because humanity have accepted it. Do you see, well-beloved hearts of light, if it is the power of divine example within yourselves, will you become betrayers of that example or exemplars to humanity? What will be the manifestation of your own courage? Will it be the courage to defy darkness, or to live still in it and allow it to rationalize in your consciousness all those activities of the human domain. Do you understand that the higher power of example is very real and very tangible, manifesting at inner levels and being vouchsafed unto the world by your hand? When you fail to exhibit it then, do you see that you are denying light to those who sit in darkness with the light of hope still burning upon the altar of their heart, saying, "O God, give us a sign"? And what is that great sign but the sign of the prophet Jonah? For as Jonah was in the heart of the whale 3 days and 3 nights, so was the Son of Man in the heart of the earth 3 days and 3 nights. And so will the perfect example, the example of completion of the congruency of man with the divine triad, manifest in 3 days and 3 nights, that the power of perfect example in you become a blazing reality, denying nothing to humanity, but reaffirming constantly to all the light of their presence and the light and glow of those sacred fires which are the perfect example and beacon of hope to all humanity. Let us make clear then that a torch, when cast upon a darkened sky, creates a great media of contrast. But when that sky glows with the color of God's will, the contrast may seem less and yet be more beautiful. For as the torch of our experience rises, held upon a beautiful blue sky as a backdrop, I can assure you that humanity, paying allegiance to the fire of God and the beauty and domain of His holy will as example to mankind, will understand how over wind and wave, over land and sea, the joy of God goeth round the earth in the Christ consciousness summoned by the sincere. Without sincerity, there can be no response in the world order, for while God has spoken often, and the masters have often revealed themselves, without the response in human hearts that will change lives, we cannot expect those lives of humanity to reflect those transcendent experiences which are the desire of every seeking heart. When I gaze upon the world order and I feel the passions of humanity who have tried numerous experiences and failed again and again, I say to myself, what will I do? What shall I do to awaken humanity, to kindle anew a fashion of regeneration in the heart of it all? And again comes the great glow of the fire of Christ consciousness, and saith unto all, I am the divine panacea, the illumination of all minds, the power and fashion of all creation, the strength of all lives. I am within all as the divine seed. If humanity in their hour of need will reach out and realize that I am the fruit of divine power and liberty, the Spirit of the Lord of light and love, then they will change from darkness unto light, from Satan unto God, from the field of unfruitfulness to the field of fruitfulness, to the glow of hope that will flood every child heart and make every child heart to know that one day they themselves, dwelling in their present body, were a child, looking unto parents to extend to them some full measure of hope and devotion. How can it be then that decade after decade, decadence will take the world by storm? Mediocrity will be the lie that lives the life of man, when the life of God, ablaze in the torch I carry, is the fruit of eternal life unto all who will share it, and basking in the glow of this torch will renew their hope again and again, summoning those domains of cosmic victory and cosmic transcendence which will make of all lives at last a life of cosmic victory in the field, the arena, the forte of human consciousness. For man must be changed from victory unto victory, even as by the Spirit of the Lord. His liberty must become the dominant factor of his life. And whether men realize it or not, God will. And so men must tell themselves, they must say unto themselves, if no man sees what I do, if no man feels what I do, if no man acknowledges what I do, God does. And I will live the life because of the rightness of the cause, not for the glory of my own dominion even, but because the cause is aglow with its own internal fire of regeneration. Its hope and strength are within me, the hope of God for his creation. The fashion of my life is in his hands because of my commitment. I will give myself unto him without reserve. I will expand the spirit of dominion by the great outgoing of the circle of the sacred fire of his love within me. I will be all that God is, for he formed me in that hope and by that conveyance. Lesser concepts I will allow to die. I will not even look upon them, for they lack courage, they lack strength, they lack conformity by their dullness and grayness, by their death-like, trance-like feeling. They create no great knowledge, but only the self-same old banal habits of expression. They are devoid of life and vibrancy. They are devoid of the fire of the rose. They are devoid of the fire of love. They are devoid of the fire of strength. They are devoid of all that has within it the residual magnetism of the Spirit. I will cast them off as though they were an outworn garment, and I will say to them, never shalt thou be any more. And thus the garment of man's own Luciferian conspiracy by which he has defrauded himself of reason from the moment in the garden in its great allegorical expression unto the present day shall be negated by the positive aspects of the Spirit of the Lord, which is liberty, and the price of that liberty is the allness of man given to God to redeem the allness of God. And in the transferal of the great microcosm and the macrocosm coming to the microcosm and infusing it with the divine domain and the power of expansion, the victory of man will at last be a thing forever recorded upon Akasha. And all the sins of man, the darkness of man, all of the weakness and the puniness of human character will be no more, having been transcendently overtaken by the victory of God's liberty in the very living, breathing expression of God that man is. And then the moment of transferal will come, when God will say, thou hast said unto me, thine is the kingdom and the glory. And the voice of the Spirit will speak unto man and say, thine is the kingdom and the glory. For God foreknew from the beginning that he would make and vest his creation a thing of absolute perfection. And therefore the fiat, be ye perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect, was the mandate which man could both receive and believe. And by the belief in that perfection, become at last a torchbearer of the eternal in the force field of the finite world. the planet, may I bring you those indomitable greetings of cosmic victory. And may I bring that buoyancy and joy which I am into the force field of your consciousness tonight in a more than ordinary way. I am victory, and I am also the victory of every man, woman, and child upon this planet. Freedom in the light, and freedom to be that which God already is. For when you were endowed with the majesty of the divine image, it was so that you could manifest it. Will you then tonight understand with me that the manifestation of the image of God in the world of form is the highest glory which man can share in? As I come to you tonight, I come in an invocative spirit, because I am determined that the joy which I have shall be the joy of the world. Never in over 10,000 years has the planetary body seen or understood that experience which I am directing tonight by agreement with those cosmic councils and solar lords governing this system of worlds. It is true that humanity have departed from the covenant of Asha, the covenant of purity, but I want you to understand that in the hearts of men there is an anchor of both their victory and their purity, which I am. Therefore tonight, as I descend into the atmosphere of the planetary body, I bring with me over 10,000 legions of angels. And I bring them in God's name to the earth to minister to the children of men because of their basic needs. Will you please be seated? I invoke then, in the name of God and by the power of God, the angelic hosts of light for and on behalf of this planetary body. And they come with me in order to vest you and to vest humanity with an awareness of their victory. What is victory? It is the overcoming of those outer conditions which you have struggled against with your mortal consciousness. Now, I say, let us demand the reinforcement of that mortal consciousness by those immortal applications of cosmic joy, peace, and loveliness, which shall bring to the mind a new domain, a new outlook upon not only this year, but upon all years to come, as the immortality and the peace of your victory as a reality. You have thought in terms of your victory as remote. Well, I want you to understand that the realization of your victory can be an immediate occupation of the total being of man, so that people, instead of being involved in a struggle for this or that, can at last understand how they can enter into the immediate fulfillment of those cosmic wishes that are a part of the great cosmic light of God which never fails. I say to you tonight, the light of God never fails. And when I say it, I want you to reinforce that action as a tangible focus in your own hearts, so that you can become the beneficiaries of that cosmic service which I seek to render unto you. You have somehow or other had the idea that you are deficient. Will you please remove from your mind and consciousness tonight that you are a deficient person, and enter instead into the consciousness that you are an efficient, God-free being determined to embark upon the course of your own cosmic victory? For then I believe that the focalization we can produce in the world of form will be a cosmic miracle of light splendor such as the world has not hitherto seen. No, not for thousands of years. I want you to understand that there is a law of abundance functional in every one of the ascended masters. And do you know what that law is? It is the law of the production of greater grace in the heart of those who are yet to come than they themselves have manifested. No matter how great the ascended master's consciousness may be, in the world of finite form, they are always imbued with the consciousness that God is and is functional within their own manifestation, and therefore they understand the law of miracle transcendence, whereby the consciousness in any given age can at last ascend itself into a higher vibratory rate, to higher spheres, and bring with it the consciousness of initiation into the world of form, whereby the planetary body becomes transformed by the transcendent light of purpose, which is the glow of the eternal power and fire of the cosmic being of God himself in the heart of the great central sun. Will you accept that? Will you allow yourselves to become enamored by that? Will you draw nigh unto that? Will you accept that victory as a part and portion of the Godhead that is tangibly intended as a gift for you? Well, dear hearts of light, I am offering it to you. Will you not take it? Will you not accept it? Will you not be it? If you will, I am sure that the transformation that will occur in your thought processes will not so immediately decide that now you are at last going to go through some strange and undesirable negative condition. For how easily the human mind is able to accept that about itself because of the tremendous infiltration into the world of form and the life patterns and life records of so many, many people who have passed through undesirable experiences. Well, all you have to do is let go. Let go of those old ideas. Arrange for their transmutation through the sacred fires and elements of God's own being, and then decide that you will have no more of that. Are you not tired of situations in your life that are less than victory? Will you accept with me tonight, then, a feeling of your own God victory and make it a permanent part of your own world? This is the manner in which I myself was able to attain not only to the title of victory, but to the being of victory as a part of God. You may say to yourself, ah, yes, victory is a part of God, and victory is a part of mighty victory. But is it a part of my own world? No. Well, beloved hearts, as long as you say no, it will be that way, don't you see? But the moment that you decide that you will become a God-victorious person, a pure son of great light and loveliness, then you have already started those fires of victory upon the grate and hearth of your own consciousness, and from that domain it will expand and expand and expand until it covers the earth. Humanity has for thousands of years accepted the principle that they need to rob their brothers because they are not satisfied that the abundance of God's love has provided enough through the avenues of nature. Therefore, they reach out and take that which is not their own. They do not understand the one fiat that I invoke the angels by, and now I will invoke them. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. As I spoke these words, every grain of sand upon the planet recorded them. You think, perhaps, that these are being recorded only upon electronic tape. Let me tell you that every grain of sand, every drop of water, every portion of all substance has recorded my words tonight because I speak with the authority of God. And I have delivered unto the world this my fiat: victory, 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 victory. Billions and billions of times written upon the sands of the planet. You cannot handle a grain of sand or substance from now on without knowing that the word victory is upon it. Oh, what an ego he has, you say. Let me assure you that I have long ago dispensed with that. I have uttered this name as a quality of God obedience, a quality you can make your own, a quality you can cause to stir those unregenerate energies in yourself and tell them to depart from you and to be transmuted into light and loveliness as those beautiful regenerate energies of God, happiness, and victory. What a triumph it will be then when humanity at last, accepting that spirit of cosmic understanding which I am, will understand that it was the original intention of God from the beginning day that man should be an overcomer of darkness. Well then, let us get on with the business of overcoming it. How do you suppose it shall be done? First of all, by the buoyant, joyous, transmutative release which I am making tonight, I expect you to go out and literally beat the world into submission. You say to yourself, well, what do I do first? And I tell you, it is to actually focus that consciousness of God victory in your own individual worlds. And when you do it, I tell you, if you will remain constant to that sense of victory, it will make a wonderful change in your world. A change that will cause those little obstacles that so long have become the stumbling blocks in the pathway of your life to literally yield themselves unto me. Oh yes, you say, while the consciousness of victory is buoyantly, joyously buoying me up, I'm able to do all of that. Well, let me tell you something tonight. When you understand that the God power of victory is literally alive within you, when you keep that consciousness enshrined as though it were an icon upon the wall of your being, it will transform you. But when you let slip from your consciousness all of these things because the bugaboo of human nonsense stands there and says, oh, you're a terrible person. You are an egotistical person. You are a person of darkness and deceit. You have this fault and you have that fault. So long as you accept that, you probably will. But the moment that you begin to understand that only by cosmic grace and loveliness manifested by Jesus the Christ and the ascended masters throughout the ages will you ever be able to shake the dust off of your feet and find at last that you can arise in those triumphant moments whereby the great cosmic spirals of the cosmic fire become a tangible manifestation for you. How do you suppose this will be done? Because the spirit within you is made of the same substance as the spirit of the ascended masters. Well, don't you see then, it is merely a matter of expressing those God qualities which are already within yourself. And the idea and concept that you cannot do it is a concept of satanic lore, a concept of Luciferian strategy, whereby humanity has accepted this and has not understood that at last the very cradle of God victory is within themselves. When they understand this, then they are no longer a lone pine tree standing upon a lonely hill, separated from the world and feeling so sorry for themselves. Do you understand then that all of us are all together with you, standing with you? How in God's name can you actually stumble any longer? Well, you say it isn't exactly easy. Let me tell you that it may seem to be hard to actually do the will of God. But when you accept the spirit of your victory, you will be transformed in thought. And whereas that action of thought may not immediately seem to percolate through to those decadent atoms, which you have unfortunately not shepherded through the great cosmic fire often enough, then you will understand that that power of the cosmic Christ that is universally within you and is now called into action will become a tangible manifestation from an ultimate standpoint. And you will not be weary simply because you see some manifestation that is already not perfect. This is one of the great stumbling blocks of humanity. It is the idea that they are already not perfect. Well, I tell you they are. They have simply accepted imperfection. And this has become the fiat of their world. They have accepted the dissonant beat of drums from an idle jungle of human nonsense. And they have denied the immortal facets of cosmic life that actually breathes and glistens within them. What do you suppose beats your heart, beloved ones? Well, the power and energy that beats your heart is the power by which the worlds themselves are framed, and by which they are turned in space, and by which the glory of God becomes a tangible reality in the face of an avatar such as Jesus the Christ, in the face of an avatar such as El Moria. All of these great ones, Kuthumi, they builded cathedrals. They struggled against the outer circumstances of the world. He became the divine power, as he was called, because he said, I will give myself unto thee. I will give myself unto God. And what has really transpired? Well, God already had him, but the devil seemed to have a hold of one foot. And somehow or other, he was disturbed somewhat. That one foot was pulled upon. Well, I want you to understand that it doesn't matter if they have you by both feet. If you understand that God is inside of you, and he that is in you is greater by far than he that is in the world. It is a state of consciousness. It is a matter of understanding. It is a matter of the recognition of that understanding by you, not by someone else. It is not enough for El Moria, the great master, to have in his consciousness that he can overcome the world and the state of the flesh. and the state of outer carnal manifestation. But when the Spirit of God takes you over, something else will happen. It will not be a figment of your imagination. Now let me say to you, why do you suppose I say that? Because so many people have rationalized and brought out into the intellectual state of their being those very marvelous little tidbits of human knowledge that say that God is not, that Christ is not. Why, you would almost think, dear ones, that they would say they themselves were not, but you seldom hear them say that. Do you understand what I mean? They will say that God is not the great God of the universe. They will say that beloved Jesus is not. But the ones who say it, they don't say that they are not. They seem to consider themselves then to be of superior intelligence and power of rationalization, whereby they can literally rationalize all of the ascended masters out of existence. Well, thank God that they have not done it, for we are here, and our victory is a tangible manifestation within you, if you will let it, upon the altar of your heart and being. And I tell you, that is the fervor of God by which I speak, that it is the victory of God by which I speak, that it is the devotion of God by which I speak, and that I am come this very night from Venus to bring you the radiation of the sacred fire and the power of great invisible worlds even beyond that. I have traveled this very week to the very heart of the great central sun, and there I have been charged with those solar energies by which the very hub of creation turns and radiates and pours out its victorious energies for the accomplishment of God ideals. Oh, you say the pralaya will end. Well, let me tell you, though it may end, it will start again. And I want you to know that the hum and hub of creation will keep on radiating and turning in the movement of diurnal worlds without end throughout all time to come and throughout all eternity to come. And never will it stop. It is like a top that is wound up forever because the energies of God are triumphant in it, and the energies of God are triumphant in you, and they are a part of your own very soul. Will you understand that? Will you smile in your heart as you recognize the truth in my words? For by this smile of acknowledgement, you will help to solidify in your world those buoyant, joyful, cosmic, radiant energies by which you were formed in the very beginning. And you will understand that those cosmic laws which enable me to come here and speak to you tonight are the laws by which the universe is both guided and governed. And when you understand that, outer conditions are meaningless. Why? Because you have understood the higher law, and the lower laws of human manifestation seem themselves to pale into insignificance. Will you accept then tonight the idea of your own ascension in the light? Well, the moment you accept it as a premise, what do you have to do? Right away you start changing your life, because you know very well the consciousness you now have is not the consciousness of the ascension, nor is it the consciousness of your victory. So you set about the task of deciding for yourself that I am going to do something about that, and I am going to transform myself in consciousness. What is the end result? The end result is a triumph for God. Every single soul that graduates from the schoolrooms of earth becomes a triumph for God. And strange as it may seem, this is one of the reasons why we sometimes display ascended masters in more than ordinary manners, because we want the whole universe to rejoice, as it was said in your own Bible. Every sinner that repenteth causes joy in heaven. Well, let me assure you that the moment a man repenteth or a woman repenteth and turns to serve the light with all their heart, the light turns around to serve them with all of it. And what takes place? Why, an entire transformation, of course. And you say to yourself, simply because you engage in a checkerboard consciousness, playing little games with yourself, you decide, after all, I heard victory, I was inspired, I heard this, or I heard that, and I was inspired, but now I have all these tragic circumstances facing me, and what am I going to do about it? I've got to do something about it right now. And so you don't do anything about it whatsoever. You simply suffer the qualms of conscience, the regrets and the pains that you got yourself into hot water in the first place. Well, I want you to understand that the pathway to joy and deliverance and victory is one that is strewn with a lot of human nonsense behind it. Will you recognize then that you better throw out some of that ballast so your balloon can go higher? Well, if you will accept that, then I can do something for you. And you can do something for yourself. If you don't accept it, I want you to understand that you will more or less stultify yourself, stand still, and sometimes go under the quicksand. For the quicksand is there. It's waiting to absorb you. It wants to soak you up like a blotter or a sponge. It wants to take you and rob you of your energy. And what happens to the quicksand? Well, down underneath, you see, they have a little tunnel. And you know what happens in that tunnel? They take all the energy they can steal from all of you, and where do they put it? They put it out in the world to create negativity. And so it becomes a vicious circle, and humanity is constantly the victim of it. Well, when man understands at last that their victory, their God victory, is within them, and they understand that every cell has the imprint upon it of the words of eternal, immortal, ever-living victory, they will understand at last that that is the reason for rejoicing, and they will no longer entertain those dark thoughts whereby their consciousness is dragged down as a whirlpool of defeat and darkness and sadness, and their face grows long and becomes wrinkled, and they have all kinds of bad ideas, and they can't sleep, and they decide that the whole world is against them. Why, beloved hearts of light, the moment they begin to understand that this is nonsense, they will recognize that they can keep drawing that great sphere of cosmic victory. Do you know what I'm going to do for you tonight? I'm going to answer your calls. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to answer them in this way. Sometime when you get these awful spirits of despondency that I described to you in part, will you just make a call to me very quickly and say, "Beloved, mighty I am, presence and beloved victory. Help me, help me, help me. Get me out of this condition right away, right now." And you watch what happens. The first thing you know, way down to the very tips of your feet, you're going to feel that cosmic energy penetrating you, and you're going to get that smile, and all of the darkness will suddenly creep away and hide, because it has no place else to go. It can't stay inside of you any longer, because you are a spirit of victory. You're a spirit of triumph. You're a spirit of joy. You're a spirit of God, and you flood that across the face of the whole green earth. And then after a while, there won't be any more snow. You can melt it with divine love. Why, you can melt all the ice crystals out of your world, and you can find your freedom in that wonderful golden sun of the golden dawn of cosmic illumination, and you can bring that to the feet of humanity, and you can cause humanity to understand by the fervor of God and the faith of God that God is real, and that they are real, and their soul is real, and the joy within them is real, that I am real, that victory will seal you in a heart of cosmic victory forever, if you will only yield yourself to that spirit of truth that is within you. Begin to study to show thyself approved unto God. Begin to understand, to accept the great fiats of immortal life within you, and recognize that forever. I have come to you tonight, and I have come to the world with a special purpose. And I am going tonight to every continent upon this planet, and I am going to put a massive image of victory into the etheric realm over that continent. And I am going to send an arrow down into every heart that is dark and black and deceitful. And I am going to say to that heart, "Don't you know that you beat because God lives?" And I am going to try to create a sense of abundance in the minds of humanity as has never been done before. And I am going to work with you. Will you then recognize the power of being a catalyst? Will you recognize the power of being a catalyst? Will you recognize the power of being a catalyst? You can become a catalyst wherever you go, for I will make you an emissary of victory to this planet. I will make whoever will accept it an emissary to this planet, so that they can carry the light of victory to the dying world that you presently envision, and revive it and restore it to life. And in 3 days, it will walk again in the spirit of cosmic joy. Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm not talking about 3 earthly days, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I'm talking about the victory of the eternal day of awakening humanity to make them realize the timeless beauty that is in the thought of victory. Why, you have only taken one quality of God. What will happen when you take them all? this evening, direct your consciousness gently yet surely toward the dawn of the day when victory will at last be the achievement of all mankind. And may I say that time on time again you have called to our octave, and when you have called to our octave, from us you have received unlimited assistance, and you have said to yourselves, I can rely on Master Moria, on the great divine director, on Lord Maitreya, on Mother Mary, or even on me, Kuthumi. And so you have received assistance from our level. But have you ever paused to think that we ourselves received our assistance eventually directly from our God presence, from the great solar flame that is and was and always will be abundantly moving in our heart of light? Will you then tonight concentrate upon the great God potential within yourself? For whereas heaven is so willing to send the assistance from our octave to the earth, we are more than delighted to see you draw the same power from your own God flame that you have often sought only from us. Will you understand this so that we may also be able to place greater and greater reliance upon you, that we may be able to trust you as true emissaries of the ever-living flame, walking among men, yes, as trees walking, as men walking, as gods walking. When long ago we taught the brothers and spoke unto them and magnetized them and drew them unto a fountain of faith, producing often miraculous healings, and above all a sense of permanent devotion, by which we attended the various masses daily that were given in the service of the light. It was a thing of delight and beauty to many of them, and they thought of nothing else. Can you today understand how godly men in those days responded and identified with their God to such a high level and degree that they did not even pine for the things of the world? Nay, with all of the great joy that they had and the service that they had of a religious nature, what was it that was the pining of their heart? Why, it was spiritual, of course. And they were constantly thinking of how they could embellish their spiritual life, how they could draw closer unto God. Today, the unfortunate trend of the world seems to be to turn their interlude with God as just that, a momentary contact, which seems to be all that they can bear. For the things of the world are so prevalent, so abundantly alive in their consciousness. The things of the Spirit seem to be, as one of your own people said, too tame for them. Beloved hearts, what is needed is the taming of the lion of human appetite. We need more fasting and prayer, more devotion to God, and more stern discipline with ourselves and I speak to you, if we are to actually realize the great kingdom of beauty that so many yearn for and know it not. Why do they not know it? Because they reach out toward the world with grasping hands to receive this and that banality as though it were the blessing of God, when it is not. And when they reach out, beloved ones, they come away, even when their hands are full, with empty hands. Hands that do not seem as aught but stained by the things of the world, the things that they steal that actually belong to another, the things that they rob from God that do not really belong unto them, but they force violently the gates of heaven and take those cosmic joys which are of the Spirit and use them to foster their gain in the world of form. They use their religions as though they were a machine to produce for themselves some measure of worldly happiness. Now certainly this is beleaguering the presence of God, because while natural enjoyment is intended to be had by all should understand that heaven has already provided joys far beyond the earthly measure of joy for all men to share. And the greatest of these joys are to be found even in the face of a tiny babe, a little child, or an elderly devotee whose eyes already fixed upon eternity. Speak of other worlds to come, of a day of devotion far seeming away from the consciousness, yet nigh to the heart of hearts, because it is that heart behind the heart of flesh that is actually expressing itself in your devotion. And when I come unto you, it is with the fullness of love wisdom, it is with the fullness of love's strength, it is with the fullness of love's devotion, because I have realized him, and I believe that forever will be required, and a day before any of us could ever realize him in even a small measure of his greatness. The Spirit that created man, that endowed him with opportunity, that trembling upon the cup of release to his lips to be consumed is a givingness of the God self unto man, a complete bestowal, but so often not received or imbibed properly. This is what was meant long ago when the words were spoken saying, one is hungry and another is drunken. When ye eat the Lord's supper, discern the Lord's body. This meant, beloved hearts of light, that men should bestow upon their consciousness a full measure of that devotion to the eternal heart that speaks of the eternal heart. I am Kuthumi, known of old as Saint Francis, and before that as other forms and other ideals. I have lived also in the way of the libertine, in the way of the sinner, in the way of the man with unclean hands. And how happy I am to devote my allness to God as the divine Poverello, as some of you have named me, with delight and love. I am pleased then to give up all to Mother Wind, to the sun, to the air, and to freedom, because then man is clothed upon in his nakedness. He is clothed upon by a garment spun of devotion white and pure, a garment radiant with the sun of eternal strength and shining, a garment strong and resilient to withstand all of the outer attacks and the inner attacks from residual focuses of darkness in the little selves of men. But when they give themselves to their greater self, when there shines out and chimes out into the consciousness of the individual, the realization that I am real because God is real, that I am endowed with creative light, that I am a child emanating that light to others and receiving their light unto myself, then man is not alone any longer. His devotions are not alone. He is a chorus of voices. The cadence is rising and falling as pulsing flames in a chapel of absolute devotion. Man, then, is not a creature of the morning, or a creature of the noon, or a creature of the evening or the night, but he is a creation of eternal loveliness, and there is no night there, no seasons there in which he feels some passion of devotion to God, and then, in a state of inconstancy, refutes all of his former actions because he wishes, as a wayward child, to indulge himself in this or that fawning and petty activity. We urge upon the students the realization that devotion is a fire, a flame of tenderness that mounts up in its joy of approach unto the Godhead, that sunders all the cords that bind humanity to the earth and the earthly state of consciousness, that causes that buoyant joy to become a thing alive as a flower bursting forth into the fountain of foreverness, with the miracle of Christ consciousness infusing elemental life, and all with the beauty of the coming dawn. The golden age will be one that will proclaim itself. It will proclaim itself because the hearts of young and old alike, the world around, will cherish those principles which now seem to so many as a thing of darkness and superstition, the ignorance of past ages, when in reality they knew not the man, they knew not the woman, such as Lydia the seller of purple, and others of the early apostles that walked in a spirit of devotion which modern man has more or less eschewed for a lack of cosmic understanding, a lack of ordinary basic understanding, and a lack of the realization that I am living in the Christ consciousness by the eternal grace of God, that I make this plea to each and every one of you. Beckon then unto God and say, Come unto me, O God, and fill the clay vessel of myself, and unite me with that holy fire that is the endowment of devotion, as no flame of fanaticism, but a flame of brilliance and joy, worth more than all of the paltry treasures of the earth, which pass away and are no more. Charged with the great vibrancy of the eternal, the passion of the treasures of heaven becomes a thing of giant sibilation within the soul, until at last it is drawn to that magnificent magnitude that is the face of the living Christ, invoked and evoked in all as that beautiful Savior, King of creation. Worthy Master, make me still a vessel of thy will, and fold me in thy magic power to overcome all sin. Let every hour begin the shower of love now to begin. May the mantle of the eternal flow over you with its peace and joy, extending its realm of magnitude out into the world form, until every child and man and woman becomes at last a devotee of that sacred fire of cosmic devotion that like a flower holds the soul encased round about with the softness and gentleness of the cosmic hands of God, the immortal potter molding the clay of identity until it resembles himself.